This is actually, the memoir itself is about my name, my strange name, which is Prarthro, and it means prayer. And actually the word is Prarthana, and it was an initiation name that I got in India, and it has been a kind of a koan because the word prayer in the English language, when I think about it, is a strange word. It's the only verb that I can think of that's used in its, let's see, how am I going to say it? It's used as a noun, but it doesn't mean the person, even though that's what it means. Does that make sense? Prayer, singer, writer, not poeter, but you know what I mean, listener. And we have a prayer. And I think that's so interesting because there's no prayer without the prayer, right? So that's part of what I'm thinking about with this. But it's a memoir, and it starts with my winning a Ginny doll at the St. John's Baptist roulette wheel when I was 10 years old, and that's what changed my life forever. But that wasn't hot enough, I thought, so I'm going to start with chapter 3, Landing in India. That's hot. I landed in India the way almost everybody does, from the sky. Down through 32 years of acquisitions and broken dreams, procreation and loss, into the world that understands the delicate blessing of failure. But when the free fall was over and I found myself stumbling down the steps onto the tarmac of the Bombay airport, it seemed a dubious grace. The stench of smoldering debris rushed to greet me, along with the steamy heat that clung to my skin like a waterlogged wrap. And then there was the wall of hungry faces pressed against the smudged glass at the end of baggage claim. I had traveled alone for the first time abroad at the age of 32. Actually, I did have company for the first leg of the journey. An astrologer I met at a meditation center on the coast of Maine had invited me to take the scenic route to India, accompanying him from New York to France, up to Denmark, and then going on my own to Germany for my flight to Bombay. His main objective in France was to encounter the mysteries of Chartres Cathedral through the rose windows of psychedelic mushrooms. We stayed in the city of Chartres for several days, spending most of our time in the cathedral, going there each day at dawn. The astrologer ate his mushrooms and staggered agog among the relics. I wandered off to converse with the gargoyles, taking comfort in these creatures so reminiscent of the ones that hid inside me. I had little patience for the marble saints with their bobbed hairdos and perfectly folded robes. But I spent a great part of each afternoon watching the color-stained dust spiral through the sunlit dome. And one day I free-rolled down the grassy hill, a joy I hadn't known since childhood. A few days later, we were on our way to Copenhagen, where we would go our separate ways, me to India, the astrologer to Norway, where, as he put it, he would set up his Scandinavian empire. On our way out, we stopped in Paris for the night. Strangely, I don't remember anything about making our way to the hotel through the city of dazzle and light, nor what we had for dinner or where in the capital of gourmet world we ate. But I do remember doing a Tibetan humming meditation, making love, and drifting off to sleep. And I especially remember waking in the middle of the night to the strange room, streetlight coming in through the slats in the blinds, and for several long moments I could not remember anything about myself. Not a single detail of my life flickered in the darkness, not even my name. But there was no fear. In fact, the moment held a kind of tender elegance, as I sat suspended in time and space, connected to nothing but the stripes of light lying on the black floor. This is the next section. The train from Copenhagen departed at night and rolled through an ebony landscape, the compartments around me jangling with foreign tongues. All the signs on board looked as if a child had been playing with Scrabble tiles, making unpronounceably long words. But I soon caught the rhythm of the other bobbling passengers and fell into a train-rocked sleep. After some time, the train came to a stop at a large body of water, indigo and white-capped under a full moon. It surprises me as I write this, but I still have no idea where we were exactly. I had not bothered to look at a map. To this day, I don't spend much time in research on the road. For some reason, I prefer the feather-in-the-wind method of travel, to live in trust, at least for a little while, from here to there. When the train was fully stopped, we all disembarked, stumbling through our sleep, while the cars were loaded one by one onto a ferry. At last we were herded back in, everyone looking like children, hair askew with sleep-softened eyes, holding tight to something familiar like a coat or a bag. The ferry shoved off, and while everyone settled back into the twilight of their dreams, I felt a pull to go on deck. I stood there, in the deepest middle of nowhere, utterly alone. The sea was black and roily, and the moon seemed to roll across its own dark water, white-capped with clouds. And what rose in me then, or perhaps it descended, I can't say which, seemed to be the other side of that Parisian hotel room coin. This time I seemed to know exactly where and what I was. A deep solitude surrounded by night and sea. The restless tumults of hope and fear fell in on one another, and a sense of height and depth met somewhere inside me. The best word I have to describe that moment is dissolved. I was spread out thinner than rice paper. I was dissolved, and the force of it stole whatever was left of my disappointments and ragged dreams. So I'm going to read just a little part of when I actually arrived in India. Again, so there's I take a long sojourn. I heard Hemingway said that was a good idea. No, it was the other one, Samuel Clemens. Mark Twain. He said, when you tell a story, you should go very far around, which I did. So this is just, I'm in Pune now. I've landed in Bombay, and I met people who actually had a guest expected who didn't come. I became their suddenly unexpected guest, and they were going to give me this beautiful room. And so this is where we're starting at the airport in Pune, getting into a rickshaw. The rickshaw driver had been given directions to the marble bungalow where my host's, my room, and its flowers would be waiting. He pulled up on the starter stick. The engine cleared its throat, and we were off in a puff of smoke. I sat in my seat holding tight to my suitcase in hopes that we could keep one another from bouncing out. It was a wild and noisy ride, the engine sputtering like a lawnmower. The driver had his radio on full blast, through which a popular Indian songstress sang, but I could barely hear her over the grumbling of the motor. Outside the rickshaw, the hills began to smooth out into plains of dry grass and dirt. In the distance, I saw a woman walking in sandals with a brass pot on her head, her brightly colored sari blowing in the breeze. A child beside her rolled a rusty metal wheel with a stick. A few goats wandered ahead of them, bells swinging from their necks. At that moment, this world, which had seemed so alien since my arrival, turned inside out and suddenly became familiar. It was as though what I had taken to be my life, with its goals and frustrations, had been lifted like a screen, and I was back inside my real life. I'm home, announced the small voice from inside, the voice that rides in on tears and blesses them like boats as they flow out. Thank you.